Your Excellency, almost all sectors of the economy and administration has touched that, except probably housing. I really want to speak for that because the GMB of Harmony Holdings some few days back raised alarm that most beneficiaries of homes and the mandate estates might lose their homes because those houses and estates were actually for those who were contributors to the NHF. But the last administration, civil servants did not even form up to 20% of people who got it, but rather politicians who did not pay this money. The state government, indirectly, is owing like 1.5 billion, and they might take this absolute ban. What is your administration doing about that? And importantly, in terms of housing, creating housing for people. And then, is anything going to be done to discrepancies that have been done at the mandate estate in terms of like where it's supposed to be schools, people have built out, where it's supposed to be recreation centers, and they built out, there's been a lot of distortions.
There was a lot of indiscipline with the administration. Loans were taken, for example, on the SME, 2 billion was taken from the federal government. It's even difficult to track down those that benefited. But today, the state has been paying, since 2019, we've been paying 35 million every month, deducted from our allocation in Abuja, because the state government guaranteed it. And those that took the money are not paying back. The same thing with the mandate housing. Now, we can't kick them out of their houses, but what we'll try to do is to mitigate, to make sure they pay for those houses. The program was meant for civil servants, but it was given to friends and family. Now, we have to correct some things, but we can't. It will be difficult to deny them a roof over their heads. We're working with the federal government, and we're going to come up with a new estate in, several estates, but basically the main one is coming up in Ilorin, where we're going to engage the federal government. Also, there's a scheme coming up for teachers and civil servants to subscribe to under the federal government program. What the state will do is to come up as guarantor to some of these schemes. But on the issue of the Harmony Holdings, there's a big hole in Harmony Holdings. We're just trying to mitigate what is happening there and making sure the company is not thrown into bankruptcy with the debts left behind. On the issue of land use within most of those estates, huge challenges there as well in respect of the fact that if you build a house on a park, are we going to demolish the house? Because there'll be outcry that we're demolishing houses. But there should be development control, but henceforth we're drawing a line to say those sort of issues should not happen anymore. Thank you.
I'm going to ask you this double-barreled questions. One, health insurance is something that the administration has. How far are we going in this area? Also, sir, I want to ask, you have been known to be very passionate about youth and gender matters. You have received commendations, received awards. I remember about 2 weeks ago you got another award for this. What drives this interest in youth and gender matters for your administration? And the final part of it, the forensic audit report was widely reported everywhere. What is going to happen to the outcomes of that report?
Okay, yes. On health insurance, project going on. We're going to enroll more indigents. We're going to get civil servants to also embrace it fully. Now, without health insurance, a lot of people will be left out of the healthcare system. And that is the way to grow healthcare in Nigeria completely. Health insurance will make sure easy access to healthcare for all of us. But it's about creating confidence from the society, making sure that citizens engage with it. Now, so far, we're having over 50,000 states where we have 1 million. Once we have about 1 million, then we won't have any problems with that. It will also help us improve on our facilities, healthcare facilities. We've been investing heavily in healthcare, a new eye clinic at the General Hospital, an ICU in the hospital, a new dental clinic. So we're expanding those sectors and encouraging people to use those facilities. If you notice now, there's a turnaround. Like General Hospital Ilorin has 18 hours of electricity all the time. Patients are now moving from the federal teaching hospital to the general hospital. So it shows you that there's confidence in the system we have. But we'll keep pushing and expanding the health insurance program, which has been embraced properly, and huge commendations from the federal government on our health insurance policy. On the SDG5 gender issues, it's a no-brainer. Women should have a seat on the table where decisions about them and others are being made. And when you include that table, that means they're not properly represented. It's the same reason why Kwara State wants to be represented in the Federal Executive Council, because if we're not there, decisions will be made by other states excluding us. So women should have a say in decisions made for them and about them. And my experience is that women are dedicated and very productive in what they do. And we've seen that in the States. We've seen huge productivity from there in terms of capacity. And kudos to them. We've done well. We've not gone wrong in making sure we pass the law, because what we're thinking about was that eventually when we leave, somebody will reverse the gains made for inclusiveness on SDG 5. So that's why we sent a bill to the House to make sure women are guaranteed 35% of all political appointments in the state. And we tried to push that agenda with the constitutional amendment. It didn't go through, but I'm sure next time it will sail through. So on that agenda, we're succeeding. On the issue of the forensic audit, it's submitted. We're still going through it with fine comb. Most of the things we saw there are not things we're happy about. And when you look through it, you wonder why the people in PDP are still campaigning that they want to form a government in the state. I mean, unless you have no out of shame in you, you shouldn't be even fielding candidates. This is a party that could not pay salaries. We're talking about salaries today. Salaries is a no-brainer. No government should talk about paying salaries. It's a norm. That's what you're there to do. You couldn't pay salaries. You couldn't pay pensions. You couldn't pay gratuities. You couldn't pay running costs to ministries. When we came in, the Water Corporation was down. Kwara TV was down and out. Radio was down and out. What are they coming back to do? The education system had collapsed completely. Every sector you went to had completely collapsed. So I really can't see any sector that they did well in at all. So when they said they're coming back, or they want to take the state back, well, what we say is that We're not going back, we're going forward. It's just we won't allow anybody to take us back to where we were before. Nobody's even looking forward to PDP. If you see anybody who has come newly into politics or wants to leave APC, they're not going to PDP. You can even see they came to APC to headhunt a candidate for their party. So ours is a serious party. We've looked at the forensic audit of the state and we've seen the infractions. Those that will go to court will go to court, but we don't see it as an instrument to witch hunt anybody. We went into to guide us, to guide the government to see what was being done wrong and how do we get things right moving into the future. But if and when the report is published, it's going to be damning. Many of you will see what's in there. It's actually was a shameful exercise that was done by the last administration. It was not governance. It was not administration. It was just sheer looting of the Commonwealth of the state. So we'll do the needful with the report. We'll look at it. But the most important thing and takeaway from the report is to guide us in how we administer the state in future and see the infractions that have been caused. So it's more of that than saying we're going to court, we're going to arrest A, B, C, D. No, that you're wasting your time. We'll be wasting our time going after people deliberately at this stage. You can even see that even the federal government, cases started by Ribadu in 2004, 5, 6, they're still in court up to today. Why do we want to bog ourselves down in court? We want to bring development to the state. We want to make sure we deliver to the state, the people of the state. For example, the investigation into government houses, about 110 houses were sold to private individuals, politicians. 100% of the houses in GRA belong to government. That was how GRA started. Today, government barely owns 2 or 3 houses within the GRA, outside government house and the chalets. Government barely owns 2 or 3 houses. They've shared everything completely. Deputy governor lives in a rented apartment. Now, the only person in government that lives in government house is the speaker and the deputy speaker. Everybody else is in their private properties. So, some of our supporters are agitated and want us to do something about it. But whilst other some want to think governance is about that, amassing wealth and being that, taking advantage of what they need to do. They did the new GRA, but they know the cost of procuring land in GRA. They sold houses in GRA at the cost of 1 year's rent. That's what they did. They sold houses in GRA at less than the fees they pay to get a plot of land in the new GRA, which they designed and conceptualized. But it's a shame that that sort of, what do I use for it? That sort of looting of our Commonwealth took place under their watch. And they believe people will just sit down and watch them stride in again to continue where they left off. It's not going to happen, and people are not going to allow that to happen. Civil servants are not going to wait and accept somebody who was not paying salaries to them or who was paying salaries, who was not paying their pension, who was not paying their gratuity, to come back into government and continue same as it was doing before. You can see Kwara Radio has gone digital. TV has gone, Kwara TV has gone digital, has gone 24 hours. They're on Star Times, they're soon going to be on DSTV. That's where we're going. We're moving forward. Similar resources, they couldn't pay 18,000 minimum wage with those resources. We're paying almost double now, 30,000 minimum wage. We're paying 30,000. As of when due, we're expanding investments all over the place. We're infrastructure. When we came in, no single water works out of about 90 in the whole state was working. But we're continuing to fix them. In Ilorin, those that were there saw that water was being delivered by tankers, even during the election. That is not the norm anymore. The tankers have disappeared. So we go from town to expand. A new waterworks is on in Jeva, another one in Tomaki. So we're just doing the right thing. Nobody wants to go back to yesterday. Nobody wants to go back to Egypt. Things were done badly. The norm is to share the money. You saw the social investment program we're doing. Before, you just go to a few people, share money in their houses, pretend it is a personal money they're sharing while it's government money. We're not pretending that social investment money is our money. It's government money. You can receive alerts directly from government into your wallet. So, truly speaking, look at the documents carefully to guide us for the future and to making sure we plug the loopholes and the people are not taking advantage of again. Thank you.
Your Excellency, sir, as we round up the program, I will take a lead from my boss who asked you a double-barreled question, which also has some subordinates under them. So, sir, let's start with politics. 2023 general elections are around the corner. What, in your view, are the prospects of Tinubu Shettima? One. Also, as the executive of Kwara State, what should Kwarans expect from you, especially as you look up to a second term in office? And again, there's this rumor that you will lay off civil servants when you get back to office. I'll need you to clear the air on that, sir.
I'll start with the civil servant. The civil servants are very happy. There's no need to lay off anybody. We've been able to manage the resources to make sure they get their salaries as of when due. They're not a burden to the state. We don't have issues with civil servants. It's just about managing our resources, so that is on track. Where we have issues is the liabilities that from administration there, issues of promotion, making sure we're up to date with the promotion at state level, at local government level, making sure the money being owed, the salaries are being owed, pensions are being owed. We're looking at 11 billion at the local government level. So looking for next year is to cover that. You see, we're going back to the previous administration to what they have done wrong. On our watch, we don't have issues. At the state level, gratuities, we've paid about 5 billion in gratuities. They're happy. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel. In answer to your question, nobody is going to be sacked. The service is being expanded. So definitely we need our civil servants, we need their experiences. Why would you sack a civil servant when you consider the cost of sacking a civil servant? It costs you about 70%. You still be paying 70% of their salaries. So it's cheaper for you to maintain the civil servants than to sack them. So we're maintaining all our civil servants and we work with them closely. The issue is about rapport and talking to each other. That's important when the civil service is telling us what they want and we're talking back to them and saying, this is what we need to do. So it's understanding each other. Going back to the question of politics, I'm certain Ashwaj Bola Ahmed Tinubu will win the next election. People are looking at track record in Nigeria. Where is it coming from? What you have to offer. And that is what will sustain you to where you are. What are you bringing to the table? Look at the track record. Look at Tinubu. He got to Lagos. The IGR was 600 million a month. Today, they're at 50 billion a month. So he was able to harness that, to generate that sort of revenue. Now, if you go to Lagos, you see that the revenue was not wasted. There's development going on every day, every sector. Like Tinubu said in Iowa House a couple of days ago, he said, Atiku has investments in Lagos because he's been able to provide the environment for Atiku to invest in Lagos. Obedience are all in Lagos because he's been able to provide the environment for them to invest and live in Lagos comfortably. So when you look at their track records, people are forgetting that Obi was governor for 8 years, as long as Tinubu. What is he bringing to the table? Atiku was vice president. He was elected governor in Adamawa State, but was chosen as vice president. So basically, you look at what they've done before, what they bring to the table, and what the future is, what their plans are. And I believe people trust Tinubu to deliver because they've seen what he's done before. Beyond that, you look at the micro development. He started last month every other state started copying the same sort of thing. So every system developed in Lagos was replicated all over different states. So he's a catalyst for development, and he's a spotter of talent. Ideally, would not have a problem electing him. In fact, it was a northern government, APC, that stood behind Tinubu and ensured his emergence because the northern governors believed in equity. The north has done 8 years. There should be equity. Let it go to the south and primaries. And Tinubu emerged through a clear process which all of us witnessed at the Eagle Square. So, the essence of it is there should be a shift in power from the north to south. That is what when we talk about equity. It's about equity and sustaining our democracy. Because we're looking at elections, we're looking at inauguration. What happens after inauguration? If you're saying you don't want to have an inclusive election process, then what is the fallout after that? We don't want a disruption in our democracies because one half of the country will feels excluded from the process. That's what we don't want. But it's a democratic process. It's about numbers. Atiku or any other northern candidate is allowed and permitted to contest. But what we were saying at the Northern Governors Forum of APC is there's a gentleman's agreement, not written agreement, that there should be some sort of transfer of power to the south. And this is an agreement, gentleman's agreement that PDP itself started. It was the idea of PDP. They started it, but not as convenient for them to do otherwise. They're doing contrary to what the agreement is. But APC will win in Kwara, as well AbdulRahman will win in Kwara, and in several other states. We've seen the polls, the numbers are good. We all just need to go out and campaign. We would not sit down on our balls and say, AbdulRahman has won. We'll go out campaign, house to house, door to door, village to village, local government to local government, until the assured victory is attained.
Kwara State, what are your assurances to the people of Kwara, especially as we look forward to the second term in office?
For the people of Kwara, if we can reflect position back to where we were in 2018, what was happening in Kwara in 2018, what is happening in Kwara today, we have been able to stabilize this freedom of anything. Before we were being hunted by touts, talks, and all that. It's a norm today. They abuse each other on social media. Civil servants are getting their salaries, unlike before, when some became farmers or bricklayers. So, the first thing I'll tell you is, think about 2018 and before then. How was the state? Well, how was the state of the state? And how is the state of the state today? Even businessmen, look at it today. The number of flights coming into the states. The number of vehicles and car lots all over the place. Businesses are growing up everywhere. Look at the eateries you have, Item 7 and all that. So look at Femtech, how many branches they've opened. So the indices of economies, you can say the future is bright for the state. We have our master plan. Master plan is sided towards Kwara North in terms of agriculture. Now, to the extent that in our own view, the local government would probably become one of the richest local governments in northern Nigeria. Why? Because they're the host to Batita Sugar Company and Refinery and Lusako, Boa Sugar Refinery. Those two refineries working would produce enough sugar for the whole of West Africa. Not just sugar, ordinary hand sanitizer, production of electricity. So it's a huge industry coming out of there. The Special Agricultural Processing Zone to be funded, we've been invited to Abuja to sign the protocols with the president, and it's been situated in Kwara North. It's a $60 million project funded by Islamic Development Bank and African Development Bank. Agricultural Transformation Plan of the federal government too, partnership with the state. will contribute 20% of whatever the federal government contributes. In the last budget, we had set aside 800 million naira for that, but that too is going to Kwara North. So, well, yes, there's lopsidedness, but there's comparative advantages because over 60% of the land mass of the state is in Kwara North. So, we're concentrating agriculture there. We're going to open up rural roads across the state with the RAMP project. We're going to invest more. The design of our roads will change. Things will get more expensive. We're not going to go for quality roads rather than just building anyhow. What you have today is asphalt on laterite. Those roads would not last. That's why roads are not lasting. For us, the future is bright in Kwara with the right investment in human capital development, in infrastructure. Infrastructure, the Bode Sadu, certainly Bode Sadu to Kama Road will be opened up. We're working on our budget now. It's been approved by the federal government. Bode Sadu Kama to Kusubusu. It's been approved by the federal government under the road tax fund, so that poor can use their taxes to build a road. All the final protocols have been signed. Federal Executive Council have approved it. So we're just waiting final approval on the design by the Federal Ministry of Works. So that will stop us from going into your state before we access Kayama or Baritan local government. So it's an important road for us. Now, by and large, we take comparative advantages. Agriculture in Kwara South, we're going to concentrate majorly on cashew production, cashew export, cashew processing. Nigeria used to top the world in cashew production, and not so anymore. In Côte d'Ivoire today, when Nigeria was topping the world with 60,000 tons per annum of cashew production, Côte d'Ivoire produced less than 5,000. Today, Côte d'Ivoire is producing 1 million tons. We're at about 200,000 tons. So, yes, the oil boom distracted Nigeria from its agro and agro-processing businesses. But we'll continue to expand on that, especially with focus on agro-processing. We're going to invest heavily in shea production, shea butter production. Nigeria's number one producer is of shea in the world. 60% of the world production is from Nigeria. We export it raw, mostly. So, we start the processing here, and shea is grown mostly in the middle, not central of Nigeria. Majorly, Kwara, Niger State, and part of Kogi State are the major producers. So we have comparative advantage in that. We're going to concentrate on issues like that. Basically, for shea production, shea can employ up to 5,000 women picking. That's where we're going. Production, agro-processing, agriculture, industrial production, we're going to get Kwara back to work, making sure Kwara works properly. We're having a new industrial park just after Yenkorin. The design of that project is being concluded. Hopefully we'll go to site by January for the new industrial park. We have the Ilorin master plan, a new city master plan for Ilorin. The first plan was drawn up in 1967. Since then, nothing has happened. But it's now making it difficult for us to live on controlled growth. People are just building anyhow. That will come to an end when we have the new master plan, satellite cities around the town. Now, what does a master plan consist of? It's taking 25 kilometers radius from the center of Ilorin and planning on how we live, infrastructure, water, electricity distribution, waste disposal, and planning for future sites of the satellite towns, planning for future sites of institutions, universities, cemeteries. So we need to plan how we live. It's not just in the master plan, we have to offer a new master plan. Another master plan, Ogunara, Ugo, Umaran axis. We go to Kwara North, Pateki, Lafayette axis. So the important thing is we have to plan how we live. If we don't plan how we live, then we start living in ghettos, in squalid environments. If we don't plan properly, we find it difficult to get infrastructure to our homes, to our doorsteps. Majorly, we have to create the entertainment industry, recreation industry, recreation. You can see the flower gardens will be ready by the end of this year. Flower gardens will be reinvented and we'll work on the amusement park. The amusement park is in litigation. They sold it for 100 million, a property that is worth over 4 billion, and they still have the audacity to take us to court for taking it back. We even offered to pay them back the 100, insisting on taking it. So we don't want to look back to yesterday and see what has happened. We want to look to the future. We want to assist private businessmen to establish industries. We want to work with private businessmen to establish university, tertiary institutions, whereby in 20 years from now, we'll be talking about 20, 30 universities in Kwara State and so on. Australia is earning more from tertiary education than Nigeria is earning from oil. So let's get that oil thing out of our head. We can earn more from different industries than we're earning from oil. Like I mentioned earlier, Bangladesh is earning far more. In fact, what they've earned from garment production this year, we haven't earned it in 2 years. So let's not get fixated with oil and think, okay, let's go to the zero oil program, which is to say we can exist without oil. How do we exist without oil? We have our own advantages in agriculture, in human capital development. Let's use that human capital. Before Ashofi woven, we used to be the top in Ashofi and so on, Ashofi. But that talent, we're using it. So it shows us we have talents in that industry, in the garment industry, we have talents. Let's expand it and get people to work. So basically, we're looking at increased GDP. We're looking at moving a lot of people above the poverty line. We're looking to a state where the IGR is expanded tremendously, where we don't have to rely on what is going on in Abuja to run our state like we have today. Even what we're getting from Abuja is not enough to pay our salaries and cost of running. But a state where everybody believes in and keeps making an investment, a state where people will pass through and spend the night, a state where people will pass through and make investment and say, this is where I want to live in this state. Things are expanding. People will rather fly to Ilorin to go to Osun State, Ekiti State, and so on. And when they come in, we want them to spend the night here. That's why we're expanding hospitality industry. We're building a new conference center here. And by the time we build a new conference center, we have influx of people coming in. Now there's no month that we don't have state, international, national organization coming into to do the AGMs conferences in Ilorin. We have 3, 4, 5, 6 conferences every month. Chambers of Commerce and Industry was here last month. Really, it's a peaceful state of harmony, arguably one of the safest states in Nigeria, and we'll continue to make it sing. We don't want to go back to yesterday. We have a state to build on. We have what I just said is think of 2018 and think of today. Look at the changes in your environment. Look at the wealth that is being created by different people. Look at our GDP has gone up. When we came in, our general hospital, people stopped going to our general hospital. People were going to the teaching hospital. Today is the reverse. People are going to the general hospital. In fact, patients are being referred from the teaching hospital to the general hospital. Things are certainly changing for the better in the States. Well, welcome to the new Kwara.
Your Excellency, sir, Kwara has been very excited, especially football fans, because for quite a number of years now, the darling team of the state, the Kwara United, have not been able to play Continental Championship until your administration came. So it's something that they've been yearning in for a very long time. I hope this is going to be sustained. But importantly, we could not enjoy it because there was no stadium for us that matches up the requirement of CAF.
I want to know what you are doing about this. Though I know there are also ongoing squash and construction going on, and also for table tennis, and also cleanup of the swimming. And you agree with me, sir, that sports is not only a passion, but it's something that can create jobs, and we can have people become professionals in this field. So what is your target in this?
Sports, football, starting with football. Football, the state of our football, Kwara United, reminds me of how we met the state. We met Kwara United at the bottom, the lower division, relegated. So the state too basically was relegated. We've seen in 2 seasons we've taken Kwara from relegation, not just Premiership, but to continental football. We're not reinventing the wheel, but we're just motivating the people at Kwara United, doing the right thing with them, giving them free hands to run football and allowing them to showcase their talent. With the right encouragement, they're playing continental football. So taking them from the bottom to the top. And that's what we're doing with the state, Kwara State, taking Kwara from the bottom to the top in all sectors. The team is doing well. We'll continue to support the team, also to support the academy. It's not just football. We're looking at other sports. We're building arguably the biggest squash court in Nigeria. We had 2 squash courts. We're building 8 more to have about 10 courts in there. And while we're building that number of squash courts in the state, now from 2 squash courts built in the stadium by George Ini, then to today, Kwara has dominated sports in Nigeria by having a presence and winning tournaments from 10, age 10 and below to adult sports squash tournament. Every tournament you go to, there's a Kwaran playing, either headhunted playing for another state or representing Kwara. And what brought about this? Those 2 squash courts built by George Ini. That's where the dominance comes. So we're expanding to build a squash city. Now, if we can dominate Nigeria with 2 squash courts, certainly we can dominate Africa. And maybe the world with 10 squash courts. Now, same thing, we're building new table tennis hall. Hitherto they shared the hall with the indoor sports hall. And we produce national players like Kasali, Lasisi, and Co. And we make sure our youths get the right training. We're also renovating many parts of the stadium, the handball, the swimming pool, volleyball, and all that. So we'll continue to invest in sports. We're going to offer to fix their stadium. The Offa Football Club narrowly missed out on the promotion to the Premier League. I was there in Ibadan to witness their last match, but unfortunately they couldn't make it. But next year, with the right motivation, they'll get promoted to the Premier Division. Offa is well known across Nigeria for volleyball. They're the Nigerian League champions, so we'll continue to support them and put facilities for them in Offa there. So in terms of sports development, we're serious about it. We're investing well. We're looking forward to the National Sports Festival in a couple of months and making sure the first thing is to participate. We're not going to be the champions of Nigeria overnight. Sports takes a lot of investment. You don't invest in sports, you don't get the product at the end of the day. Yes, we can top the chart if we want by going to buy players from other states and making them represent Kwara. That's not what we want. It's creating employment by other states buying our talents to represent them. Yes, that's what's been happening because there's not the right motivation of our sportsmen. Other states buy them. So when we play in other tournaments, we meet Kwarans playing for other states. But there's nothing bad about that. It's part of employment generation. So we're incubating the talents in Kwara for other states to showcase them. We'll continue to develop sports. We made sure we set up a sports commission. So we no longer have a Ministry of Sport for Sports Commission, which allows for robust management of our sport programs in the state.
Thank you very much for being with us thus far, Your Excellency. Now, in recent memory, Nigeria has had immense security challenges. Some of our neighboring states in Kwara here have had very terrible security experiences. But along the line, Kwara State has been able to manage the situation. Now, how has it been for you managing these security challenges? And final part of it, sir, with all the developments that we've talked about, they usually come with challenges. Part of the challenge is security. As you have more businesses, as you have more development and more people coming in, the likelihood of security challenges also rises. So what are we looking at along this line?
On the security issue in the state, in Nigeria, as a subnational, the first thing we should do is recognize and thank our security agencies, agents, and those within our security architecture to make us sleep well at night. Arguably, Kwara is one of the safest states in Nigeria, but we don't appreciate our security men enough. I'm using this opportunity to thank them and say, on behalf of the people and government of Kwara State, to thank them all. We have this misconception of stereotyping the police by a few bad elements at checkpoints and castigate them. But as I speak to you, the security agents in various local governments, gathering intelligence, maintaining security and order, some of them are on the roads, making sure the roads are free. So thank you to our security agents. Now, how have we been able to sustain it? And it's a strong security architecture from the state executive to the legislature, the judiciary, the local governments, the traditional rulers. And the traditionals have been very, very proactive in making sure security is maintained within their domain. So let's also, in the state, appreciate our traditional rulers for the work they're doing, for the information they give the security agents, for the information they give the state government in making sure the state is kept safe. On the issue of kidnappings, Kwara, we experience 1-2 kidnappings a month. Some months we don't even experience at all. Unlike other states, some other states that can't even keep count. But what we should be careful about going towards the elections next year is domestic kidnapping and insider jobs. People trying to take advantage of the political season, kidnapping people within their neighborhood, advertising it, lauding it so that to attract politicians to come pay ransom, to pitch for politicians to compete amongst themselves as to who will first pay the ransom. And we'll make sure this doesn't happen. That's part of the challenges ahead. Security issues. You'll notice the last election was the first election in recent memory that a gunshot was not fired. And the security agents were left with their responsibilities and they made sure the bad elements were taken out of the system, driven out of town. One would easily remember the over-robbery incident. There was no election that took place before that was not disrupted by hooligans, thugs who are paid, those in opposition today, to take advantage and maintain their strength and power. Now, we've made sure that those ones are history. I mentioned offer. One would say, what's happening with the case of the offer robbery? Well, when we came in, it was a case we inherited. And we looked at the files and we saw that the cases were not filed properly. So it's taken us time to clean it up. For example, how can you prosecute a murder case without a coroner's report? The case will be thrown out. So we had to start the case afresh with proper investigation and proper documentation. But by and large, Kwara is safe from Kusubusu to Osi from Pategi to Afon. We continue to maintain that, making sure our security architecture is intact. Once again, I thank the security agencies for doing their work in Kwara State. Thank you. On the issue of the stadium, why we're not using the stadium for continental matches or any matches now? Last year, we received a letter from the league management company that artificial field on the stadium had expired, and 2022 season will be the last we'll use that field for. So, whether we're qualified for continental or not, we're not going to play any more football on that field. But luckily for us, AU Mustafa SAN agreed to donate a brand new field, grass field, not a tartan field, grass field to the stadium. The stadium is being grassed now, while the state government is fixing the dressing rooms, toilets, and other facilities within the complex. But we thank AU Mustafa for supporting the government in putting in a grass field at the stadium. So hopefully next season will be played at the stadium. If the grass is not ready, then we look for alternative pitch until that is ready. We have other facilities in the States that we can use, like upgrading the Ofa Stadium or at the University of Ilorin or Kwasu campus to use their field as well. It's a matter of getting the LMC to approve those sites for us.
So thank you very much, Your Excellency, for this very interactive session.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Top on the agenda of the Kwara State government is taking Kwara from relegation to the top. It's been an interesting session with the Executive Governor of Kwara State, Malam AbdulRahman, AbdulRazaq. Thanks for your time, Your Excellency. And viewers at home, this is where we'll be wrapping it up on the program. We thank you most sincerely for being a part of it. I am Kafayat Ajishafe from Kwara TV.